Good morning. It is Tuesday, November 30th. A wonderful day. Sorry I haven't brought any of these devotionals, the video devotionals, for a while. I know that some people really enjoy them, and I love doing them. I'm going to try to get this one through. The last few I've tried, my computer freezes up, so if anybody ever wants to know how they can pray for me and this video actually gets out, you can pray that the Lord will bring me a computer that can handle this stuff, because the more I keep doing this stuff, it slows down. I am so excited to bring you the word for the day. I'm telling you, as you saw, the title is Against the Wind. If you excuse my standing up, my back is pretty much out on me, so I'm having to move around quite a bit. But the word for the day comes out of the book of Mark, chapter 6, verses 45 through 51. And this is the word. It says, "Immediately he made the disciples get into the boat." This is Jesus. "He made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, to Bethsaida, while he sent the multitude away. And when he had sent them away, he departed to the mountain to pray. Now when evening came, the boat was in the middle of the sea, and he was alone on the land. Then he saw them straining at rowing, for the wind was against them. Now about the fourth watch of the night he came to them, walking on the sea, and he would have passed them by. And when they saw him walking on the sea, they supposed it was a ghost, and cried out. For they all saw him and were troubled. But immediately he talked with them and said to them, 'Be of good cheer, it is I, do not be afraid.' Then he went up into the boat to them, and the wind ceased. And they were greatly amazed in themselves beyond measure, and marveled." Great word. I'm telling you, there are so many lessons. The Lord opened this up to me this morning. And there's so many wonderful lessons in this one thing. But I'm going to cover 4 lessons. I'm telling you, I could talk all day on this stuff. Just out of this one passage, the way that the Lord's opened it up to me. But 4 lessons that we need to take hold of. Lesson number 1, the disciples had just witnessed a huge miracle. Right? Right before this, Jesus had fed the multitude. 5 loaves, 2 fish. He fed 5,000 men, plus who knows how many women and children. And he sent the disciples away, told them to go on to the other side. And then he sent the multitude away and had them depart, and he went alone to pray. Now here's the cool thing about lesson number 1. Many times, the disciples, they followed his instructions. They went and rowed out into the sea while he sent the multitude away. And what happened in the process is what we see, that many are fed, but few see the miracles that can only be seen in the intimate times with Jesus. Right? The multitudes were fed, and they got to participate in that. Not only did they get to observe it, they were participants. They handed out. They had those baskets in their hands. That's amazing. So as they pushed that stuff, as they walked out through there, then they, as they had that stuff and handed the food out, they saw it never ending. Now that was an awesome miracle, but the greatest miracle was saved for their intimate experience with him. Again, many are fed, but few actually see the power of God in their lives. And because that's displayed in intimate actions with God. That's one-on-one with God, or with a group of small people. So that's beautiful. Second lesson. If the disciples had just given up the struggle of rowing against the wind, right? It says they were rowing, the wind was against them. They'd only made it halfway. Okay? If they had just given up, then they would have never witnessed God's power. Okay, because there's a tendency when things get tough that we just want to drop anchor, hold tight to where we are, and just stick with what we've gone so far. And when things ease up, then we'll move forward. Well, the Bible is clear that Jesus' intent was not to stop at them. His intent was to pass by them, because they had stayed up and continued through the struggle. They stayed actively involved in rowing, even though it was against the wind. So when God calls us, sometimes he calls us out into things that create a struggle for us. And when we do that, we have to remain obedient. And even if we're fighting against a headwind, right, we've got to make sure that we continue. Because any progress we make is progress towards Christ. And that's a beautiful thing in and of itself. But what they got to see, because they stayed in it, they didn't drop anchor. They didn't just say, we can't go any further, we're tired, we're exhausted. Now, it'd be understandable if they just did that, because it was like in between 3 and 6 a.m. in the morning. They'd been rowing all night. They had the next day to try to figure out what to do. What are they going to do with their next day? Jesus has been probably sleeping as far as they're thinking, and, well, we're just going to be exhausted. Well, they stayed active in the struggle. Jesus' intent was to pass them by, but because they are awake, they got to witness Jesus walking on water. I mean, that's beautiful in and of itself. That's awesome. And not just water, but remember, the wind was against them. What does wind do to water? It creates big waves, right? A boisterous sea. Lesson number 3. Seeing God display his power is an awesome sight, but it is also terrifying. It can scare us because it goes against our human nature and against the physical laws of this world, right? And it's not normal. They thought it was a ghost. I mean, people can't walk on water. So here's the cool thing about it. We have to be involved with Jesus intimately. We have to know him personally. And not only know him, but know his voice. Because when they got scared, Jesus initiated the conversation. His intent was to comfort them, not to scare them. God is not a terrifying being. His intent is to show his love for us. But we have to know how to recognize his voice. So Jesus, he initiated the conversation, but he didn't identify himself as Jesus. He said, "It is I." So if they didn't know the Master's voice, then they wouldn't know who I was. Do not be scared. It is I. Well, who's I? But they knew his voice. How important is it for you and I to know the Master's voice so that when he speaks to us in the midst of terrifying things, we can recognize him and take good heart knowing that he is blessing us, even in the midst of it. Lesson number 4, when Jesus steps in, the struggles cease, right? The wind stopped when Jesus got into the boat. Now here's the thing, they didn't get to quit working. They were only halfway across the lake, so they still had a ways to go. But all those things that were coming against them stopped. So we have to understand, what a beautiful picture that this paints, that just being in fellowship can cause our calamity to cease. How beautiful is that? It brings calm to our calamity. He brings peace to our problems. He comforts in our craziness, and he brings excitement to our exhaustion. What a mighty God we serve. That's the God that we serve. I'm telling you, I'm so filled with the Holy Spirit right now. He has blessed me with opening up his word. Just blessings. So anyway, that's my word for the day. I'm going to take the rest of the day and lay on my back. Hopefully this message will get out. My computer won't crash. And I just want to encourage you guys, live the life, man. Don't settle for mediocrity. Don't settle for complacency. That is not what we're called to. We're called to shake things up a bit. Everywhere where Jesus went, people gathered to see him. That's the spirit that should be in us. They gathered to see him because he didn't always go along with the ways of the world. He operated to a different standard. So should we. May you be blessed. May you be comforted. May you live a life worthy of living. Don't just settle and go humdrum day to day. Please don't do that. God has so much more for us. Y'all have a great day. Be blessed. Hopefully see y'all again soon.